Hello. Today I want to talk about the topic of people pleasing. And before I get further into this, I want to just say I'm not a medical professional, not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I'm not saying what I'm doing here is going to cure everything in the world. It's just some suggestions. We're having a bit of a discussion around this. Get you aware if you've got these sort of traits yourself. Maybe you're aware of other people around you that might have these traits. It's just about open dialogue. Let's talk about it. We're all human. We've all got emotions. We've all got stuff to work through. So let's get into it. So the topic of people pleasing, right? Usually that is like a pattern that's kind of picked up in the childhood of a person. And it's more likely to obviously occur when one is in like unsafe, unstable, abusive environments that cause stress and suffering, really. And, you know, most people, how do I put it? You know, most people when they become parents, they may not have like a high emotional intelligence, you know, especially maybe if they're younger or they've just never really exposed themselves to that kind of development, even if they are older. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, with that can mean that obviously it's much easier to pass on intergenerational patterns from how they were parented. But also we don't want to blame the parents too, because at the end of the day, most parents are doing the best that they can with what they know and what they have. And it's not always an easy job being a parent. It's probably the hardest job in the world. And many people, I'm sure, could say that. And I am not even considered a biological parent of any children in this moment in time, and I understand that is a very difficult thing and a journey for one to take on. As some people, they're just like, oh yeah, I have kids, I don't really think too much about it, but I'm sure deep down, you know, that the children have a very important part to play in their life. And so yeah, where I'm going with that is, you know, it can happen a lot. The people-pleasing pattern when you're a child, especially around certain environments, and it usually comes from the parent, but it can come from other sources outside, just the parental relationship as well. And the reason the parents do it is because their own intergenerational patterns, and they haven't developed enough emotional intelligence. So that's that in a nutshell. And so when people-pleasing, it's more of people use it as a tool to try and create a safer environment. You know, some people, you know, might put it in with things like empathy, and there's other personality traits and behaviour traits and emotional traits that people can have that all kind of can come in together and go, okay, well, if you've got a lot of that, then maybe you're also a people pleaser, and there's a lot of that as well. And, you know, it does become a trauma response. It's like an adaptive coping mechanism to help us deal with situations. So if someone's able to read a room really well, you know, someone that's a people pleaser, someone's an empath or whatever, and you know they're reading the room very well, you know, and they're wanting to engage everyone as to how they're feeling and what they're doing, and they want to make that person feel safe, because if that other person or those other people in the room feel safe, then they will feel safe themselves, right? Because it's not hard to put two and two together in the sense of going back to the child-parental relationship. If the parent is projecting a lot of emotional behaviours out onto the child and are not able to regulate their own emotions, the parent, right, onto the child, well then the child may start to try and you know, make mum happy or make dad happy, or you know, do these things to make them happy, because then if mum and dad are happy, then I will be safer. You know, I will no longer have these emotions projected onto me. And so yes, that's just to, you know, get your understanding of that if it's not something you've experienced. And again, these kind of behaviours can happen in the home. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to be a people pleaser. There are also other polarities and other behaviours that can come, but we're just going to focus more on the people pleasing for the purpose of this vlog. So obviously, you know, creating this coping mechanism, making us feel safer, it can appear to be a good thing, and I'm sure it has some very good traits and good qualities. However, it can also cause issues in our lives, and it usually presents itself usually in things like relationships. The more close, the more intimate the relationship, the more likely it will probably present itself with an issue. Not always, if you know what you're working with and what your behaviours are, you can work through it and work with it, and you may never be fully healed from whatever that is, but at least you're not unconscious to it. That's something. Anyway, so a lot of that can, obviously as an adult, saying yes when we actually mean no, suppressing emotions, showing compassion for others but not showing compassion and looking after ourselves. So, and it can obviously lead to a lot of mental and emotional illness, which can also then lead to physical illness, because all physical illness has a mental and emotional association with it. I'm sure some of you have come to that awareness now, and if you haven't, or you don't want to, or that just sounds silly, that's fine. You're allowed to have a different perspective. And so with that, mental and emotional illnesses, and obviously the disruption in relationships, it's going to cause things like resentment, dysfunctional relationships, things like political obedience, compliance, and some of those things are, some people might think, that's a good thing. I want everybody to have the exact same political view, and I want everybody get up at 7, have a shower at 7:10, blah, 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 and everyone's got to be at work at 9, and then we all leave work at 5, and that's, okay, I'm going on a tangent, but, like some people perceive the world and want the world to be that way, and that's okay. I'm just not so sure if that's actually part of the human experience, that we're all supposed to be the same. Anyway, you can disagree with me on that, that's okay. So with that, it can obviously cause issues. It might sound good, we all have political obedience and we're all absolutely compliant, and but there's also some holes in those kind of theories as well. So I guess, we've talked about it. What is it? How does it present itself? What can it sort of create if it's not made aware of? Now, how can we actually help ourselves and help people around us that have people-pleasing traits to the point where they're not taking care of themselves and they're suppressing their emotions, they're creating dysfunctional relationships with the people that they have around them. And that is obviously, being aware of it. That's the first thing, of actually recognizing that behavior is something that you are partaking in. And obviously don't judge yourself, don't blame yourself. When you judge and blame a behavior which you are conducting yourself in, it's not always very helpful. I can do another vlog on that, talking about it some more in the future. So listening to your internal guidance and acting from a place of responding rather than reacting, and practicing honesty, setting boundaries. If something's come up and you need space and you're able to, I am aware that when you've got like little babies and things like that, it's hard to give yourself space, because if you're not looking after the child, well then who will look after the child, and their needs kind of come above yours, in a certain aspects. I do understand that, but if you're in a place in which you need space, take the space. If it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If you create a lifestyle where you can give yourself a whole day, then kudos, take it. Take your whole day for space. That's what you need. And if you may not be someone that has a lot of people-pleasing traits, but you know someone that does, then try and assist them if you can. When you're asking them something and they say yes, but their body language or there's an energetic exchange which actually says no, then ask them the question again and say, hey, look, I'm asking you this and you've said yes, but I'm feeling, or it looks like you actually don't want this. You are allowed to say no. I do this a lot, practicing with the simple activity of asking someone for a hug. Ask someone for a hug. Would you like a hug? And if they say yes, but their body language says no, then I will ask again and go, I've just asked for a hug, but you don't look like you want one. You are allowed to decline the hug. We don't have to have a hug. It doesn't have to go exact conversation like that, but that's just to give you an example of, if I'm asking someone something and they say yes, but there's not actually a full-on yes coming from them, then I'll be like, it's just giving them that space to be like, hey, it's okay to say no, and I still love you and still respect you if you say no right now. And it's not going to apply in every situation, but just giving them that space to actually say what it is they need. That's one example. And the reason I do that is because, I have my own people pleasing traits, I'm sure, with my own intergenerational patterns and all of that sort of stuff. And, so I want to talk more about it. And I think it's really important to. And then obviously the next step is to, some people decide that they're going to take a middle ground for a while, and so that might be compromising. So a friend might say, hey, can you come help me move house all day Saturday? And you don't want to. You want to just sit, go to the spa or go for a walk or whatever else you need to do, or you've got someone else that you're supposed to be helping something with. Instead of just saying no, some people, will say, oh, well, and instead of saying yes, they might say something like, oh, well, I'll come round, but it'll be for like 2 hours because I've got other things I've got to do. So that could be a place in which some people might like to sit in for a little while they're sort of practicing getting out of that people pleasing, deprogramming themselves from those sort of behaviours, is finding that middle ground of like, I don't want to do that thing, but I don't want to say fully no, so I'm going to meet somewhere in the middle. And some people have to do that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing either. Some people will play in the polarity swing, and they may, sometimes the polarity of the people pleaser, the victimizer, is like the narcissist traits, the abuser. So some people might swing into that direction, and I can't judge. If people need to do it, then they need to do it. But of course, there's a lot of repercussions that come from swinging into that place too. So, a lot of it's about practice. Just practice, practice, practice. It's not going to be perfect every day. There's no such thing as perfection. So with that whole like swinging the other end of the polarity, you don't have to. You don't have to go that way. You can. You don't have to go nasty and like close your heart off. But if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. And I guess the reminder that I wanted to provide is that you can be firm and be loving, and they can both coexist. If you have to go the middle ground, if you have to do a polarity swing, and or there's another way, which is the loving yet firm way. I'm sure there's probably a multitude of other ways and boxes or whatever people want to describe. And but yeah, just encouraging for you to practice that and just get more comfortable with saying no. And expressing what it is that you need and being really open and transparent, but also moving through that emotion that you might feel about, giving someone the no. Maybe you feel guilt, maybe you feel shame, maybe you feel these other emotions because you're not meeting what their needs are. But if you're not meeting what your needs are, then how are you going to be able to help anyone anyway, 111%? That's the other thing. It's the other way to look at it. And it's like, okay, I want to paint the house, but I don't want the house green. I'd actually like to paint the house white. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I'd love to paint the house, but I don't want to paint it green, But instead of just saying, oh yeah, let's just paint the house green, or not saying what it is that you need, you'll find actually people really do respect when you come from a place of honesty and transparency, and being able to communicate in a way in which you're not trying to project things onto people, you're not trying to blame them as well, like practicing that too, that really helps. And at the end of the day, if you've been really loving, you've been really compassionate, you've been really kind with setting your boundaries with someone, and they're still really upset with you, then that's probably a great opportunity for them to work through some stuff that they may have as well, whether that be with you or they seek help and guidance from someone else. again, that's very situational. So yes, you're welcome to leave any comments and questions down below. And yeah, I'm really glad that I got to share a little bit about this topic today. And I'll see you in the next vlog.